Hello and welcome to another Plain Truth, and this week we're going to be talking about insurance. Joining me as always is the legend that is Captain Al. Hi Captain Al.
Hi Matt, how are you doing?
Yes, I'm not too bad, thank you, not too bad. Now, this is going to sound like a very daft question, but do pilots require insurance?
As in sort of third-party fire and theft, or fully comprehensive? Yes.
Yes, quite. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. It's a really good question. So there are a couple of different aspects that we'll look at in this chat. So we'll go for the obvious one first. Are pilots required to have some form of insurance if they dent the aeroplane? Well, yeah, that's a difficult one because most airlines will effectively have insurance for their aircraft and won't hold the pilots responsible because quite clearly, unless you've acted negligently, then, accidents will happen and you can't really expect it to come out of your pay packet, especially as airplanes tend to be more expensive than the average pay packet, certainly at the moment in the midst of the pandemic with everybody on reduced salaries.
Well, quite, yes.
If any salary at all.
Yeah.
So what some pilots will do, however, is they will take out a policy, just like a sort of professional indemnity policy, just as a sort of belt and braces in case anything happens. And the pilots who tend to do that are ones who are in the contracting field, or maybe those who are instructing as a second business or second income. So it's in case, say, for example, someone under your duty of care trips over and falls and they hold you responsible, or indeed there will be an element of professional responsibility if you're instructing that someone doesn't come back to you in a year's time and say, look, that technique that you taught me, well, I've just killed a load of people using it. So there's that sort of professional indemnity.
Yeah.
The more familiar to pilots insurance policy will be one with regards to income protection. So some form of insurance policy if you get made redundant, which seems to happen rather too often at the moment.
Yeah.
And also one that most pilots hold in sort of high esteem because it's a precarious profession, and that is one of insuring against the loss of your medical. Because as a professional pilot, if you lose your medical, then unfortunately you can't fly in a professional capacity. And most airlines, after a period of time, will say, well, look, I'm really sorry, but we employed you as a pilot with a medical, and, we can't continue to pay you your salary whilst you can't fly for us. The more established airlines will have a period of time where they will pay you full salary and then it reduces down. But basically, if you've got some rather unfortunate medical issue that means that your medical is going to be suspended for a long period of time, or indeed it's just taken away, never to come back, then you've got to look at some means of giving you a payout to make up for the fact that you're not going to be a pilot anymore, earning a reasonable income. So those are typically the sort of insurance policies that most pilots will have.
So in terms of the medical, is there... I'm assuming there must be certain clauses and stuff in there in the fact that you have a responsibility almost to sort of do your very best to stay, in reasonable health.
Yeah, well, to maintain your medical, that kind of comes as part and parcel of it. So under ARSA, once you start to go above a body mass index of 30, which puts you into the obese category, then your medical examiner will start to speak to you about that, and he will agree a pathway for you to reduce your BMI. So yes, there is a fair amount of self-regulation, self-control. Similarly with your declared smoking or alcohol intake, there are sort of limits that if you start to exceed, then the examiner is going to talk to you about it. And they're not in the habit of just taking your medical away from you willy-nilly, but obviously they have a duty of care to the general public to ensure that you are medically fit to go about your job.
Wow. Okay. So from a commercial perspective, obviously that's that side of things. But what about from a private pilot? With the GA flying and things like that. I mean, what's required there?
Okay. Typically, most GA pilots don't have personal insurance with regards to the aircraft or third parties. Obviously, there will be a consideration for their own personal life insurance. They'll have to let the insurer know, because under some insurers, underwriters, they perceive it to be sort of like a high risk hobby, not at the same sort of level of risk as being a skydiver or something like that, but they may place a small loading on it. But typically, the individual person won't have any form of insurance, but the aircraft will. So it will be insured, and part of that premium will be a third-party liability. So say, for example, you're flying your GA aeroplane, it has an engine failure, and you have the misfortune to crash into someone's house, then the aircraft insurance will cover that third-party liability aspect. Now, for those who don't own their own aircraft or are in a group share, if you're a member of a flying club, typically part of your sort of monthly or annual subscription will go towards a group insurance policy, a club insurance for that third party element.
Wow. I mean, as always, a great subject. Thanks very much, Captain Al.
You're most welcome.
If you'd like to watch more from our great series, then you can do that by pressing here. We've also created you a playlist with all the Plain Truth episodes, and you'll find that just here. Why not like and subscribe to our channel? That way you will be notified whenever we post our great content. Or if you've got a question that you'd like Captain Al to answer, then why not pop it in the comments box below, and you may well feature on an upcoming episode of The Plain Truth.